So over the next few minutes, I want to talk to you about how CEO is breaking down those walls between our staff and our participants, so that we can raise the levels of trust in our program with our participants to increase program engagement and to hopefully create the outcomes that they want and to make their lives better. So I thought when Dave and I were talking about this, we thought day one is more, I'm thinking, is more about actually creating the feedback loops. So I thought I'd talk about, our system of how we're creating the loops and take you through the first few stages of the constituent voice cycle. So design, collection, and maybe get into analyze a little bit. So right now, this is our feedback system. It's a 4-channel system. The first system is related to text messages where we send out to participants on a weekly basis based on different touch points that they achieve in the program. We do follow up on that with focus groups to dialogue on what we're seeing in the text messages and also go deeper with participants on different issues. We encourage our case managers to elicit a lot of feedback when they're meeting with participants, asking them about concerns around relationship and program quality and their feelings on outcomes. And then our final channel is our newest channel where we have an anonymous tablet in the waiting room where we're asking the questions in the Listen for Good study, which is essentially the NPS question and other questions around respect and satisfaction. So just want to give you an idea of some of the questions that are being fired out when participants hit certain touch points. And yes, we're using NPS, and it was such a treat yesterday for those of you at the Fund for Shared Insight to see Fred Reichelt, the father of the NPS system. And I thought it was interesting. He was talking about net lives enriched. So I was saying that in our sector, maybe we could convert NPS to NLE, net lives enriched, and maybe we would get some additional adoption there. So that question can address multiple things: relationship, quality, outcomes. We asked some other questions around quality. How could CEO be better? And then some outcome-based questions of what have you, when you have an interview, how do you prepare? So, and I gave a small talk yesterday. So we'll start with the text message. And here's a participant named Luis that's sort of emblematic of how the systems work. So, and just briefly, Luis came to us. He was very excited about being in our program and to restart his life. Things started to go not so well for Luis, and he was very upset that he wasn't getting job interviews. And so one day he came in, and it was another time he met with his job developer, and he didn't get an interview, and he left very despondent. And at that moment of truth, he got a text message from CEO asking him, would he recommend our program to others? So the timing is pretty cool, right? And so just want to talk about how we do this. It fires out of our database, salesforce.com. You can see here's the form template that asks the 2 questions: would you recommend, and why did you give us that answer? And this is the template in Salesforce of what he gave us. So he gave us a 4. And I said, as I said yesterday, I was really giddy when I saw this on the dashboard. Because we know in our sector there's such a strong courtesy bias. We were getting such high scores after we piloted this. And so all of a sudden we got this low score. So I'm not going to go into the closing of this, but it did result in a good thing, and he eventually did get placed, and he reached his 1-year retention goal recently in September. So another way that and so also through the text message, is we get verbatim feedback, right? And so these are the nuggets of truth. And so we're also looking at these things and determining whether these are loops that we can close. So here's one highlighted where have more jobs for plugins. Plugin is what participant has to do when they want to get a transitional job work site that we offer. answer the phone more, because it's a phone-based plug-in system, and be on time and get better boots. So we give everyone at CEO a pair of steel-toed boots. So some of these things that we can address, and some of them we can't. The boots we probably can't make any better. And so, we've created this system, we've designed this system that creates a lot of data that we can react to in real time. So I want to move on to our focus group. So this is Talisha. Recently talked to her in a focus group. And again, we're using the focus groups to dialogue around what we're hearing in the text message system, but we're also want to go deeper with people. And she also had been in the program for a long time and wasn't getting job interviews, right? So, this was exciting because this was someone right in front of me telling me her frustration, and I could do something about it. And I was really getting excited when I was listening to her and what I was going to do later to follow up on this. But essentially, again, she wasn't getting what she wanted at CEO. It wasn't happening quick enough. And so the focus group allowed us to address this. Now, again, the focus group, we can't do that at scale, right? And again, this is not about closing feedback loops, but this is a picture of Talisha on a job site, which she did get a job a week later. And again, it's because we heard this. We do this every 2 weeks, and we're hearing from participants on a regular basis. Here's another example of the power of the focus group. So this is a participant timeline in our database. So you see here where we're documenting that this person attended a focus group. But then you're seeing a lot of blank space, right? So for a week or so after the focus group, he dropped off the face of our program. And so then next you see a text message that was sent out by our feedback coordinator, Nate Mandel, who works at CEO. And he was wondering, he was just following up with everyone in the focus group, and he noticed this person had disengaged from the program. And so he sent him a text message and talked to him on the phone. And you can see we got re-engagement for this participant relatively quickly. So just going to the analysis part of this. So we are taping all of our focus group sessions, and we're working with Mark at Feedback Labs and Keystone to do some word clouds or word trees around this to help us convert this feedback that is qualitative into more quantitative data. Yesterday we heard a great session on from Valerie about creating code books, and this is something that the algorithm that Mark wrote is going to help us do a lot faster. So the third channel is one-on-one feedback notes. So as I said, we're trying to create a lot of deliberate practice with our case managers to instinctually ask for feedback at every session. And so these are some case notes that we got as a result of that. And when they do that, we ask them to write a case note with hashtag feedback. And then we run reports periodically every month to see what comes up. And here's examples where, as we all know, in every organization we have buzzwords, and it's confusing for customers when they hear them. And another example where they can't find job sites, right? Because we have job sites all over the city, and we created maps for them to help them work that out. Our final channel is our tablet. So as I said, we've been concerned about, or been made very aware of the courtesy bias, especially given our clientele, people that are coming out of prison. There's with not a lot of levels of trust. There's some stark power relationships there. They're still under the custody of a parole officer. So we were getting all 10s, all 9s and 10s on our NPS score. And so we decided that we wanted to do a voluntary anonymous survey in waiting rooms. And so this is a report in our system that's giving us that feedback. And interestingly, our NPS score is falling on this, which is interesting. And we're also getting a lot of great suggestions here about what CEO could do better, asking for additional services, some of which we can follow up on, some of which we can't, around schooling, paying us more, getting job interviews faster. So, you know, we've got a really great system right now where we're creating a lot of loops, and so the challenge for us is how can we get to them all, right? And as I mentioned, Nate, we have a part-time coordinator who is really the glue that's making sure that the information is getting to the right people and that loops are ultimately being closed between staff and participants. So I just want to quickly end by talking about another movement that is going on, and some of you in the room might be familiar with this. This is called the performance imperative, and it's about the need for nonprofits to aspire to high performance. And obviously, collecting beneficiary and responding to it in real time is part of that. And this is based on the work of Mario Moreno, who's wrote a book called After the Leap, and it's focused on that, you know, given changes in government funding, given changes in the economy, you know, the data economy that we're all going to be part of, where data is going to be used to pick winners and losers, that nonprofits have to get a lot smarter about improving. And feedback is a part of this assessment process. In January, there will be an assessment released on this. Right now, there are 2 proof points on feedback. That probably is not enough. This is just a start. But you know, what we're doing is getting out there, and people are listening. And I think if we continue to make progress and continue to plant the seeds of co-creation, that someday the 8th pillar of the performance imperative can be around feedback. Thank you for listening.